Before we dive into this chilling tale, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. You won't want to miss the true, dark accounts I'm about to share. So sit tight and let's begin. June 23rd, 2023, Montreux, Switzerland. I remember the day we arrived at the villa like it was yesterday. We were supposed to be happy, carefree, starting a new chapter of our lives together. But that was before the house, before the darkness that was waiting for us at the moment we pulled up. I knew something wasn't right. Montreux was beautiful, peaceful, just the kind of quiet we wanted for our honeymoon. But as we turned onto the long, narrow road leading to the villa, the trees felt different. They looked almost too still, like they were watching us. There was no welcome sign, no one to greet us. Just a set of keys left on the doorstep. It felt wrong, but Mark didn't think much of it. He was excited, caught up in the excitement of the trip, and I didn't want to ruin it. I told myself I was just being paranoid. The villa was everything I'd imagined, old, mysterious, but with charm. The kind of place where every corner seems to hold a secret. The walls were thick with dust, and there was a strange smell in the fine air, like something ancient, something that hadn't been touched in years. We walked inside, the floor creaking beneath our feet, and I instantly felt like we were intruding on something. Like the house had been waiting for us to arrive. The first night was calm. Too calm, maybe. Mark unpacked and made a joke about how old the furniture was, how much history the house had. He wasn't wrong. There was a picture on the wall of the house in its prime, and it almost looked like the people in the photo were still watching us, standing there in their old-fashioned clothes, smiling as if they knew we would come. That night, as we lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. The bed felt strange, like it wasn't mine. The sheets were too cold, and the silence was too heavy. I kept hearing small noises, whispers, almost like someone was speaking from behind the walls. I told myself it was just the wind, the house, settling. Mark was already asleep, his breathing deep and steady, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was there with us, something watching. I tried to ignore it. But then, around 2 a.m., I heard a sound that froze my blood. It was soft at first, like the faint sound of footsteps, but it was coming from inside the room. I held my breath, listening, waiting. Was it Mark? Was he awake? I turned to him, but he was still fast asleep, his face relaxed, unaware of the keel. Strange noise. I told myself it was just my imagination running wild, but then I heard it again, clearer this time, closer. I was too afraid to get up. My whole body was frozen, like my feet were glued to the floor. The footsteps stopped. I could feel my heart beating in my ears. And then, as if on cue, the temperature in the room dropped. A chill that made my teeth chatter. I pulled the blanket tighter on me, trying to ignore it, but it wasn't working. Something was wrong. Suddenly, the door to the room creaked. Just a little, like it had been pushed open slightly by the wind. But there was no wind. The door was swinging slowly, silently, like someone had been standing on the other side, waiting. I should have screamed. I should have run, but I couldn't move. I just stared at the door, my breath catching in my throat, until it stopped. It was like something had turned the room upside down, made it impossible for me to think straight. Then I heard it again. The soft whisper. This time, it wasn't just a noise. It was a voice, low, drawn out. Help me ... I tried to call out to Mark, but no sound came. My throat was tight, like I had forgotten how to speak. I reached for him, shaking him gently, but his body didn't move. He was still, too still. The whisper came again, louder this time, more urgent. Help me ... I pulled myself out of bed, trying not to wake Mark. I stepped quietly toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to know what it was. I had to ... As I stepped into the hallway, the air around me felt heavier. The house felt alive, like it was watching me, waiting. The hallway was long, stretching into darkness, but I could hear something faint, almost like breathing. It was coming from the end of the hall. I had no idea what I was walking into. I didn't know then what would follow, how one night, one wrong turn would change everything. But as I took that first step down the hall, I felt it. The grip of something ancient, something hungry, reaching for me. I moved slowly down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. The air felt thick, like I was wading through something that wasn't quite real. I kept my hand against the wall for balance, but it didn't help. The house seemed to be shifting, stretching, warping in a way that I couldn't explain. The whispers grew louder now, like they were all around me, coming from every direction. Help me. The voice was desperate, weak, like it had been trapped here for too long. It sounded so close, yet when I turned the corner, there was no one, just the dark, empty hallway stretching ahead of me. I paused at the end of the corridor, staring at the door that stood at the far side of the room. The door was slightly ajar, just enough to make me wonder if something was waiting behind. My heart beat in my chest, heavy and fast, but my feet moved on their own, pulling me toward it. I pushed the door open cautiously, the old hinges creaking under the weight of it. The room was smaller than I expected, and the moment I stepped inside, the temperature seemed to drop even further. My breath came out in visible puffs, and I could see my hands trembling. But it wasn't the cold that unsettled me. It was the sense that this room was wrong, that something had been here, something had been waiting. The only light came from the moon outside, casting a faint glow through the cracked window. But it wasn't enough to light up the corners. I squinted, trying to make out anything, but the shadows were thick, like they had substance, like they were alive. My eyes finally landed on something in the center of the room, a chair. But not just any chair. It was an old wooden chair covered in dust, and tied to it was a person. Or at least, it looked like a person. My heart lurched in my chest, but I couldn't look away. The figure was slumped, hunched over, tied tightly to the chair with thick ropes. Their head hung low, their hair hanging over their face, hiding most of their features. The person was breathing, but it was shallow, broken. I stepped forward, my hands shaking. I had to know if it was Mark, if he was somehow here. If he was hurt. I called out softly, "Mark?" The figure didn't move. I reached out slowly, my fingers trembling, and touched their shoulder. The skin was cold, colder than I could have imagined. As soon as my fingers made contact, the figure jerked, its head snapping up with unnatural speed. For a second, I froze, my heart pounding so hard in my chest that I thought it might burst. The figure's eyes were wide open, but there was nothing in them, no recognition, no understanding, just pure, hollow emptiness. Its mouth stretched open, but no sound came out. It wasn't Mark. It wasn't human. I stumbled back, my breath coming in gasps. The figure remained still, its head cocked to one side, like it was studying me. I backed away, every instinct screaming at me to run. But I couldn't tear my eyes away. And then, the whispers came again, louder, clearer, all around me. "You shouldn't have come here," the voice hissed, so close, like it was in my ear. "You belong here now." I turned, panicked, my hands finding the doorframe, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I screamed, pounding against the wood, but it wouldn't open. The room was closing in. The walls seemed to be pressing against me, the air thick with dread. The figure in the chair started to move, its body jerking unnaturally as it shifted. In place, its head still locked on me. The room felt like it was suffocating, the shadows growing darker, deeper. The whispers were so loud now, I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. And just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I felt it. The floor beneath me began to tremble, and I heard something coming from beneath the ground. It was a low rumble, a thudding, like something was stirring underneath. "Get out," a voice rasped, weak but urgent. I didn't wait to figure out who it was. I ran, slamming against the door again and again until it finally gave way. The hallway stretched out before me like an endless maze, but I didn't care. I ran as fast as I could, the whispers still chasing me, the feeling of something following me, pushing me forward. I rounded the corner, my legs burning, my chest heaving for air. But the hallway seemed to go on forever, twisting and turning, like it was changing shape with each step. And then I heard it. The soft thudding of footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate, like something was gaining on me. I reached the stairs, but when I turned to go down, I froze. At the bottom of the stairs stood a figure. The same hollow eyes, the same twisted smile. It was there, waiting. I didn't know how much longer I could outrun it, but I didn't have a choice. I ran straight for the back door, my heart slamming against my ribs, my breath short and sharp. The door wouldn't open at first, but then, somehow, I got it to budge. The air outside hit me like a wave. I could hear the wind rushing past me, feel the cool night air against my skin. But as I stepped outside, I realized one thing. The villa was alive and it didn't want me to leave. The cold night air hit me hard as I stepped outside, but it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like an illusion, a brief respite before the darkness swallowed me whole. The villa loomed behind me, its windows like dead eyes watching, waiting. My feet carried me forward, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over, that the worst was still to come. I glanced around, but the road that had once seemed so welcoming was now a long winding path that stretched endlessly into the trees. There were no signs of life, no lights from other homes, no cars, just the thick forest pressing in from all sides, like it wanted to keep me trapped here. I tried to force myself to move, but my legs felt heavy, sluggish. I was running on adrenaline, but it wouldn't last much longer. As I walked, I heard it again, the soft footsteps. Slow at first, almost like a shuffle, but then they started picking up pace, getting closer. I turned quickly, my heart in my throat. No one was there. But the sound kept coming, louder now, more insistent. It was behind me, no longer a whisper, but a presence, something breathing down my neck. I broke into a run, pushing my body forward, my heart hammering in my chest. The footsteps followed, never faltering, never slowing. The wind howled in my ears, but I couldn't stop, couldn't think. My mind was blank except for the pounding in my head, the rhythm of my breath, and the constant, relentless sound of someone or something chasing me. I glanced back over my shoulder once more, and my stomach dropped. There, in the distance, standing just at the edge of the forest, was the figure. The same hollow eyes, the same twisted, inhuman smile. It was just standing there, watching me, as if it was toying with me. I couldn't see it move, but I could feel its presence, a weight in the air that made everything seem heavier, thicker. I didn't know what it was, but I knew one thing. It was never going to stop. My lungs burned, and my legs felt like they were giving out, but I kept going, forcing myself to move. I didn't know where I was going. All I knew was that I had to get away from the villa, from whatever that thing was, whatever had been calling to me. Then, as if answering some unspoken plea, I saw it alight, a flicker in the distance, far beyond the trees. A cabin, maybe? A car? It didn't matter. I couldn't stop. I couldn't let the thing behind me get closer. With everything I had left, I ran toward it, my feet pounding against the ground, my breath ragged and desperate. The light grew closer, brighter, until I could see the outline of a small building. It was old, but it was something. It was real. And I had to reach it before I was caught. I didn't dare look back, but the sound of footsteps was right there, right behind me, each step closer than the last. It was so close now that I could feel its presence, its eyes on me, but I refused to turn around. I reached the door of the small building and yanked it open. To my surprise, it wasn't locked. I slammed it shut behind me and stumbled inside, my hands shaking, my body covered in sweat. My heart felt like it might explode as I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. I waited, listening. The footsteps had stopped. I held my breath, straining to hear anything, but the only sound now was the distant howling wind. The building was empty, just an old storage shed, probably abandoned years ago. There was nothing here to help me, no one to call for help. Just me, alone, trapped. But I wasn't alone anymore. The whispers had started again, faint at first, like a hum in the air. They were coming from the shadows, from the corners of the room. You can't escape. They whispered, over and over. My body shook as I backed away from the door. It was in here with me, whatever it was. I could feel it, could feel its presence closing in. I wasn't safe. I never was. It had been, waiting for me, and now that it had me, it wasn't going to let me go. Then I heard it, the same low, guttural voice I had heard in the villa. "You belong here." I turned, my mind racing, my body trembling. And then, through the shadows, I saw it. The figure was standing in the corner, its eyes gleaming in the dark. It didn't move, but I could feel the cold, the pressure building around me, like it was suffocating the air itself. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. But then something inside me snapped. Something deep, something primal. I couldn't stay here. I wouldn't. I ran again. This time, I didn't stop to think. Didn't stop to look back. My body screamed at me to stop, but I pushed through the pain, the exhaustion, the fear. The whispers followed, growing louder, but I focused only on the light ahead. It was my only hope, the only thing that could save me. And then finally, I reached the road, the real road. I saw headlights in the distance, an approaching car. I ran toward it, waving my arms, screaming, hoping, praying they'd see me. The car screeched to a halt. The door opened, and a man jumped out, his eyes wide in shock as he looked at me. "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just collapsed in his arms, tears streaming down my face. I made it out, but I don't know how. I don't know what I saw, what was waiting for me. But I know one thing, that house was never meant to be lived in. It was a trap for those who dared to step inside. And I was lucky. I got out. But now, every time I close my eyes, I hear the whispers. The voice that tells me I belong. And I wonder if it will ever stop following me. I thought I was safe, that the nightmare was over the moment I got into that car. But I was wrong. The ride back felt like a blur. I couldn't focus on anything, my mind replaying everything I'd seen. The shadows, the whispers, the figure. I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was still out there, still waiting for me. I kept glancing out the window, half expecting to see it standing behind me in the darkness, its hollow eyes staring through the glass. But it was just the night, empty, silent. I arrived at a small town an hour away, and the man who helped me drove me straight to a motel. I didn't want to be alone, didn't want to be anywhere near Montreux. I needed a place to rest, to clear my head. But the silence in the room was deafening. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again, the figure in the chair, the whispers, the voice that kept telling me I belonged there. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, willing myself to sleep. I couldn't. I kept hearing faint sounds from outside, scraping noises, like something was dragging itself across the ground. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind, just the sound of branches moving, but it didn't feel like the wind. It felt too deliberate. Around 3 a.m. I heard it. A knock, light at first, then louder. A slow, rhythmic knocking, coming from the door. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. There was no way anyone knew I was here. The man who had helped me, he had left after dropping me off. There were no other cars in the parking lot. The knocking grew more insistent, the sound echoing through the room. I didn't move. I didn't want to answer. But something inside me, something primal, told me I had no choice. I got out of bed, my legs shaking, my hand trembling as I reached for the door. When I opened it, no one was there. Just the silence. But that's when I saw it. On the ground, just outside the door, was a small, crumpled note. I bent down and picked it up, my hand still shaking. It was written in a scrawl I didn't recognize. "You can never escape." The blood drained from my face as I read it over and over, the words burning into my mind. I crumpled the note, tossing it aside. I slammed the door shut and locked it, my hands trembling uncontrollably. But the knocking didn't stop. It never stopped. For hours, I stayed there, sitting in the dark, the knocking relentless, like something was trying to break in. Finally, at sunrise, I grabbed my things and left. I didn't care where I went anymore. I just needed to get away from the town, from everything. As I drove, I passed miles of empty roads, but no matter how far I went, no matter how fast I drove, I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being followed. The whispers never stopped. They were always there, like a weight pressing against my chest, growing heavier with every mile. By the time I reached the airport, I was a shell of the person I once was. I boarded the first flight out, desperate to leave everything behind. As I sat on the plane, I glanced out the window, watching the small town grow smaller beneath me. But that feeling, the one that had been gnawing me since I stepped foot in that house, never left. And now, months later, I'm still haunted. The whispers follow me every day, every night. They've gotten louder, closer. It's like they know me now, like they've claimed me. I don't know what's waiting for me, but I know this. Whatever I thought I escaped, it isn't over. It's only just beginning.